Well, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Judy Music. I am one of the directors here at Berea Academy, and I am so pleased to have the opportunity, even in the midst of the storm outside, to talk about high school, because high school really does feel like a storm in a lot of ways. It is tumultuous. The stakes have raised. We feel like it's a make it or break it with our children's future. And when people think about homeschooling, they're usually very comfortable when they're thinking of homeschooling their preschooler, teaching them how to read, teaching them their colors, teaching them how to tie their shoes. They're still pretty confident in elementary school with basic arithmetic functions. Middle school gets a little dicier when grammar is a thing, and we aren't sure if we know our grammar, and then composition. Ooh, I don't know if I can write a good paragraph, if I could teach someone to write a good paragraph, and I certainly don't know if I know how to grade a good paragraph. And so we start to generally get a little more anxious, a little more nervous, and then high school hits. And it just feels very serious and very heavy. And if I mess this up, I am messing up my child for the rest of their life. And so we tend to take the thought about homeschooling high school with a lot more trepidation. And I am really happy that we are going to be able to share with you tonight several testimonies from homeschool mothers who have homeschooled through high school successfully. They have graduated their students, and their students are now productive, loving, wonderful adults. And we are going to start tonight with Janelle Steen, because I believe with anybody that is on the call right here, she has graduated the most students all the way through high school that I am aware of. Janelle has 5 children, and 4 of them homeschooled all the way through high school and graduated. So Janelle is our social studies department head. She is our world languages instructor for all of our Spanish classes. And she also teaches our mystery of history classes here at Berea. Janelle, please tell us a little bit of your testimony, your experience of homeschooling with high schoolers.
Yes, well, it can happen, and it does happen, that we actually graduate our children and our students, and it is a miracle every time. I do thank the Lord, and I feel like I have graduated with them, along with them, but each of them is so different. Their paths were so different. Their strengths were so different. So I had one who loved Mrs. Music's British Lit in all her classes, and she loved to write. And so she actually, it was her goal. She started working on scholarships where you had to write an essay. Some were 750 word, 500 word, 1500 word. And she set a goal for herself to do 5 a week, which I thought was way more than I would have. And so she did that for a semester. And she got scholarships from places, she didn't even know how to pronounce. Palmolive, which was, she didn't know how to pronounce. I forget how she pronounced that. But she got a lot of scholarships. But she got the same amount as my son, who did not want to write essays. And he worked. He lifeguarded from the time he was 15 on. And he ended up with about the same amount of money. And so he had saved every penny. And that was the vision that he saw best for him, and we got it. And then I had another one, Josiah, and he went the sports route, where he just invested all of his time in baseball, and he got the baseball scholarships. And actually, they were all about the same amount of money. So you can do it in different ways. But if anybody does want to do a D1 school and NCAA, it's many, this is his binder, pages. It's really difficult, and I've done and put the work into it. So if you know of anybody who is really struggling, I might be able to help them and give them tips. Hannah was our 4th, and she did a combination of them. She worked and did a few essays and got a few scholarships here and there, managing the women's basketball team. So it's a variety, but it can happen. We need to really help them manage and navigate it.
Thank you.
Lots
I
of
like
prayer, lots of questions.
appreciating,
Ask moms who've done it.
yeah, lots of prayer. I like the
Lots of
idea
prayer.
that every child is different. Every child's path is a little bit different. I think that is probably the theme and the focus of our discussion tonight, is how there's not just one way to do this. There are lots of different ways you can be successful homeschooling high school. And so the next person who's going to talk to us about her experience as a veteran who is done teaching her own children and yet is still teaching in the homeschool community is our art teacher, Delores Jensen. Now, Delores is the head of our art department. She has been with Berea from the beginning. She teaches a variety of classes. She has 5 different classes that she's offering this year, I believe, but she also is the homeschool mom of 3 daughters. So Delores, tell us a little bit about what your experience has been like.
Hi. So yeah, we have 3 daughters. They are currently aged 22, 24, and 28. 28. Josh, see, that's how old you get, that you can't even remember their ages. So we've homeschooled from kindergarten on. And one of the reasons we started is because that first one started reading at 4.5. And so you can't teach a kid to read at 4.5 or 5. I mean, and she was mad because she couldn't read her books and tearing them. So I had to teach her. You can't put that kid in a traditional school setting. So we started homeschooling, and she ended up being a year ahead. And she never did level back out to her age grade. She always was a year ahead. So plus she started piano at age 5. And so by the time we got towards high school, she didn't know if she wanted to be science or music. She was teaching piano at the age of 16. She started dual enrolling at the community college at 16. And since she was a year ahead, we graduated her. She was 17, her senior year. She had completed everything, but she really didn't know for sure what she wanted to do yet. So we made the decision that she was not going to just jump right into full-time college that next year, that maturity-wise, and just developmentally, she could handle it mentally, but just it wasn't a good fit for her to just go right off to college. So we agreed that she would take 2 to 3 classes a semester at Jeffco and continue. She was teaching piano for a music store in Arnold, and she still works there after all these years. And so, but she has another job too. But anyway, long story short, she did, I guess, what you would call kind of a semi-gap year. But then in that year, she figured out she didn't want to go get a music degree. She got a really good, between academic and piano, she got over 50% tuition at Missouri Baptist University, and continued to live at home since she was teaching in Arnold. So that was our first one. And she got a Bachelor of Pedagogy, piano pedagogy. Now she's talking about going on and getting a doctorate in genetic research. So, life pushes you to where you need to be. So that was her story. She was always ahead, loved to read, loved to write. So she was like the easy one that made me think I could homeschool, and that I was no big deal. But she always read. Our second daughter has juvenile rheumatoid arthritis and was very sick her whole life, but we didn't know what it was. And then she was diagnosed at the age of 13. And then she got shingles, she needed some surgery, she was on immunosuppressants. So she was sick a lot. But she still, when she turned 16, she dual enrolled. Well, she was dual enrolling with 2 other girls from our homeschool group, and one of them was the same age as her. They were juniors. And she was going to get her GED and be done early. And Anna came to me and said, could I do that? And we had already sat down and realized that she was actually going to be behind because she needed a knee surgery. And the knee surgery we knew would throw her into a flare. And it was very possible we were going to lose half of her junior year because she wouldn't be well enough because the medicine she's on also messed with her ability to remember things and get a lot done. So we were actually faced with, how do we catch up? How do we could dual enroll in those credits differently, and we can do this. And then she said, can I just take my GED? And she was getting an A in SI at MOBAP. I said, you know what, why not? Did it. She's got a 2-year scholarship to Jeffco. So that was her route. She then went to Jeffco for 2 years. She did not get an associate's degree because, again, her health prevented her from being able to take full time, but she's more than halfway. Now she's married and has the baby and is talking about going back and finishing. Our third one only dual enrolled with a couple classes and then got out, started at Merrimack. She had a surgery that summer between her senior year and first year college. She was on grade level, so she did not graduate early. And she's 22. She has been taking classes slowly along the way, figuring out what she wanted to do. It changed up here and there, and I have that on our document. I wrote some things out, so I'm not going to tell you all the details. But she's going for nursing now. She thought she wanted to do art. She is ready to start the nursing program, but for whatever reason, she's not starting this fall yet. She's on the list. They just haven't called her. She's got all her prereqs done. There's literally nothing she can take until she starts those practical courses for her LPN at Merrimack. So she has worked. She's purposely gone about it slowly so she could work along the way and take the money we've given them plus her money. She'll be debt free. So they've all gone a different path, but they've all found their path, and it's worked. So
Thank you, Dolores. I'm sure that we will be picking your brain a little bit later on. I realized in the introductions here that I kind of jumped over who are we and what are we doing here. So I am going to introduce Beth Medimeyer. Beth is our Director of Operations and one of our instructors here at Berea. And she's going to explain who Berea is. And while she does that, I'm going to duck out for just a second because one of the Berea families came to pick up some textbooks. I need to run out. So Beth, take on over, please.
Hi, everybody. I am the Director of Operations. I kind of make the building things work and scheduling and answer questions, functional things like that that happen in our group. So a lot of people are confused as to all the different labels for homeschooling. And if you've been in the homeschooling circle for a while, you've heard about co-ops and learning centers and tutoring and all that sort of thing. If you're new, you're hearing these words bandied about and not really sure what they mean. Berea Academy is a learning center. And what that means is that we have teachers that we hire that you pay a tuition for your student to take a class. And that's kind of the general definition of a learning center as a whole. At Berea, we have some specific things that we really focus on that make us a little bit different than some of the learning centers in the area. We're an academically rigorous program, which is an opportunity for students to really work to become better versions of themselves. I firmly believe as a teacher, as a mom, as an administrator, that there are many different paths from your teenage years to your adulthood and how you are successful in your adulthood. And that could be VOTEC school, it could be internships, it could be traditional colleges, it could be, there are a number of different ways you get it through that transition period. At Berea, we focus on an academically rigorous option for the student who wants a challenge or who knows that they really want to go on to that traditional college, or even a student who doesn't want a traditional college but is interested in a particular aspect. We understand that our community is full of students who have very different reasons for why they're homeschooling. Dolores mentioned a student of hers that was advanced, a student of hers that was ill. And there are so many different reasons that people choose homeschooling. We really focus as an academy on being a partner to the homeschooling family. So the parent remains the ultimate authority in their homeschool, and we enter into a partnership with you where you cede some of that authority to us so that we can offer a more traditional classroom type experience. I hesitate to say that it's a traditional classroom experience because our classes are small. Typically, our class sizes are no bigger than 14. For this upcoming school year, it's actually 9. We've shrunk them even smaller in light of the COVID situation. And that's an unusual situation in a lot of the public school systems. Also, what you're going to receive with our teachers is not just an academic education, but we have a culture and focus on mentorship, on coaching, and on really investing in our young people. And that's going to be something that might be different from your traditional school offering. As an organization, we see each student as a whole person. Yes, they might be with us to take art or music or literature, whatever the class is, or however many they take. But they come to us not just as the student, but also as a young person who maybe also works and is balancing that in their lives, who maybe has siblings and is balancing those things. And it's our ability to really see each student as an individual and each family as having individual needs that allows that partnership to be successful. So backing up a little bit, some of our families take just a single class, some take up to everything that they need. And it really varies based on individual family need and schedule availability. Our classes are available, they meet once a week. It's sort of a college style format where the students come into class and they're expected to participate in the class activities, get some active learning time. And then the days that they are not in class, they do homework that supports their class participation. We do grade in a traditional scale of 90 to 100 is an A, 80 to 90 is a B, etc. Part of our academic programming is that we have systems in place so that if a student gets to a 69% or below, the teachers flag that so that we can meet with the family to help understand what the obstacle is for success involved in that situation. Because the truth is that no one wants that student to fail. And by catching them at 69%, we have an opportunity to build a recovery plan that will allow them to still get an A in that class if they choose to invest themselves in it. So overall, if I had to sum it up in a single word, I would say that it's a partnership. And it's one that we work very hard at being where we maintain respect, conversation. It's very much a back and forth with the family. That's part of the reason why we're an application-based program. It allows families to get to know us and us to get to know them before everybody's in the classroom together. And we start building that relationship together inside of our community.
Thank you, Beth. Okay, you've heard from some parents who have homeschooled through high school. I'm sure you would love to hear from a student who has homeschooled through high school. So it is my pleasure to introduce to all of you Maggie Cenozaro. Maggie is one of our instructors at Berea. She is a homeschool mom of 4 little ones, but she is a second-generation homeschooler. She homeschooled herself all the way through, and she's going to share a little bit of what her experience has been like.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, one of my little people was just in here a second ago who was supposed to be in bed, so put him back in there. I did homeschool all the way through from kindergarten all the way through till I started college, and I had a great experience. I really enjoyed the flexibility of being able to do things I really liked and incorporating travel and things that I wouldn't have been able to do in a traditional school setting. I got to nanny overseas and do a lot of missions work and just a lot of really cool things that I would not have been able to do if I didn't have the flexibility of homeschooling. And I thought I had a really good grip on everything, and but I always struggled a little bit with math. And both my parents were fine with math. They did great with math, but they struggled once I got to high school with helping me understand the things that I didn't get right away. So if I sat down that day and I did the lesson and I got to the end and went, I don't get it. They had a hard time finding a way that wasn't the way in the book to explain it to me. Now, because I am a person who will just memorize it, I would memorize the formulas, and I got to where I could kind of fake my way through math. I memorized enough formulas, and I had really high language arts skills. So even when I took the ACT, my language arts score was up here and my math score was down here. So it kind of evened out to about here-ish, and I did okay. And I got scholarships, and I went to school for free, and I, came in going, oh, this was great. It all went well. And then I decided I wanted to be a teacher. And so I started my education classes. And during my math methods class, I started learning all the ways to teach children math and to help them gain number sense, and went, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I guessed. And I guessed decently, like enough to barely pull an A in a lot of classes, but I had no idea what those numbers actually meant. I had no idea what the formulas actually meant. I just memorized them and, used context clues to plug them into the right spot in a word problem. So now, having been a teacher, I taught public school for several years. And then I did 5 years of teaching 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. And then I took a couple years where I specifically taught students who were struggling with math and reading. And I ended up getting a lot more of the math kiddos because I had been placed on math research committees, and through a series of events ended up loving math more than anything else, because I felt like if a kid was struggling with math, I knew how they felt. I knew that if I stood up there as a teacher and I presented what was in the teacher's guide, and these 6 kids or 12 or however many didn't get it, I then went, okay, these are the things that I needed to be able to understand what long division actually meant, or to understand what place value actually meant. And so I could sit there with them and understand, oh, they don't have this visual, or they need to do this hands-on activity. And suddenly teaching math was so exciting to me, because I went, I know what they're missing. I've been there, and I was able to help fill in those missing pieces. So then after having been a teacher, I went, okay, my homeschool experience was fantastic, but it could have been even better. My parents just didn't know how to teach math. They knew how to read what was on the page, and when I didn't get it, they didn't know what to do next. So for me, getting to be a part of Berea was so exciting, because I went, okay, I know I want to homeschool, but while I love math and I love reading and language arts, I don't like science. I never got the missing piece for science. And the fact that I can come into Berea and know there are teachers who love science and are excited about science and can help my kids understand chemistry when I just never quite got the chemistry bug, that's really exciting to me, because now I go, okay, I can provide my kids with what I had, which was great, but also take it to that next level where, when there are inevitably things that I'm not the best at, because I can't be great at everything, no matter how much I try to memorize it, I now know that there are other teachers who are excited and trained in how to help my kiddos love and understand subjects that are not my forte. So that's kind of just a little bit about me and how I ended up getting involved. I ended up leaving public school to get involved with Berea because I so loved the idea and mission behind it, and the fact that parents can still have such a leadership role in their kids' education, and it can still really meet their kids' needs, right? Whether it's for physical reasons or learning reasons or whatever, but that also then it can be so specific to each kid. Every kid needs something different. I had a brother who was a math whiz. We went through the same homeschool, and he got it, and his whole career is math, and it worked out great for him. So, every kid is different, regardless of the family they're in. They all have different needs, and I love that Berea really helps with that. So that's kind of my just plug for here. That's why I'm here. I love that it's individualized, yes, and I'm very excited for my kiddos to get to be a part of it. They're very little right now. My oldest is, just now old enough for kindergarten this year. But I know in the future they will have all of it available to them.
Thanks, Maggie. I don't think I mentioned earlier, Maggie teaches our private voice and piano lessons. And this year, again, she is heading up our worship team. So our students have the opportunity to learn what it's like to play in a band, what a devotional set would be like, some composition skills of how you put together meditations, adding lyrics and melodies together, and playing well with other people musically. So that's kind of exciting. One of the teachers who is not on the call tonight because her power did go out is Jocelyn Wofford. And Jocelyn is teaching our web design class this year. And so I'm just going to fill in a little bit of what she had intended to talk about. And that is, when you're thinking about high school education and what somebody needs in our current society to be schooled, using those quotation marks there, it no longer is a situation where just having information is adequate if that information is separated from the technological ability to use and transmit that information. We have entered a society where understanding that communication happens quite frequently in an electronic form instead of a live form or a book form is a critical skill for our students to have. So Jocelyn teaches a web design class, and obviously that's talking about the construction of websites and building a website, how to reach your market audience, how to grow your audience. I'm sure if you have teenagers right now, they are very well versed in some forms of social media. Maybe they have Instagram accounts or YouTube channels or Twitter accounts. This is part of how we as a world now communicate. I'm amazed when I watch movies with my kids how much they are watching besides just the plot and the characters. They're noticing fonts, and they're making comments on Dutch angles of cameras, and they're commenting on the background tracks, and they just have this whole multimedia experience, which is going to be essential for their future success in just about any job, occupation, activity, or even on the personal side of life with relationships. We have become a very visual world. And so I'm going to use this opportunity, because I'm just kind of jumping in here for Jocelyn, to introduce Erin. Erin Hodges is our photography instructor. She has a beginning and an advanced photography class at Berea, and she's going to talk to us a little bit more about how we have become such a visual society, and how the images that we create are meshing together with our text, with our language, to create that communication that is so very essential in our world. So Erin, pick up the ball, please.
Hi, my name is Erin Hodges. As she said, whenever you think you know what you want to say, but then the moment happens and something else comes to your mind, and it's obviously a God moment. My kids are public school taught. That is, in our family, what is best for them. And my daughter, obviously, as everyone's spring got thrown up in the air and shattered to pieces, all of the plans, my daughter did not get to finish in the traditional classroom that she was in, and started crying because she saw a picture from her teacher. And it just brings me back to the importance of the picture. Like, she saw that, she has memories, she has thoughts. If you think about any big occasion, whether it be a graduation or a wedding or unfortunately a funeral, one of the first things that you do is you go through your stack of pictures and you look at how they've changed through the years. You look at fond memories of students or of loved ones. So that is what I love about photography, is even if we don't intend it to, and even with the modern day iPhone, where, 20 years ago, if we would have thought, my grandma's still to this day always has a disposable camera stuck in her purse somewhere. And if we ever go out to dinner as a family, she always pulls out the disposable camera, hands it to the waiter. The waiters nowadays look at it like, what is this? And she always asks for a group picture because she always wants to remember that. So no matter the technology that you're using to capture the images, it is just so important to be able to have those memories. And that is something that photography is really great for. What I do like about Berea is it also offers an opportunity. It doesn't just think about the core subjects of math, science, reading, literature. I'm blanking because there's a lot of them out there, but it also focuses on the secondary, and I hate to even say secondary because I find them just as important as core subjects of art and choir and foreign languages and movement. These things are essential for children in any setting. So the fact that they offer that, I was very blessed I got back about a week ago, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, somewhere in there. I got the opportunity to take our family to Utah for our family vacation this year. We were supposed to go to Disney. We wound up in Utah. Talk about taking a total different direction of vacations, just like everybody else's 2020 has been. So we went to this place called Canaveral Falls. Highly suggest it. And I took my nice camera, and I bought a waterproof bag because it's a slot canyon with a waterfall in it. And I was like, I am going to take some pictures of this because it's beautiful. And I bought a special waterproof bag, so when I fell, it didn't get destroyed because I'm very clumsy. And my husband, who is so understanding about my nerdy art side that comes out, he carried the backpack the entire time. And then he took the kids away so I could get nice pictures. And it was just such a calming moment. That's one thing that I do like to teach my students, is that art is more than just expression. It is also a way to calm yourself. It is a way to recuperate. It is a time to restore. It's a time that you can really just take in the moments. And for me, in those moments, it was taking in what God has done. I mean, the scenery there was just beyond beauty that I had never seen before. And that's what I do love, is Berea offers that to students. Berea offers an opportunity for students to be able to express them ways in a lot of different ways. I'm looking forward to my photography classes this year and being able to push that a little bit more, especially as I think everybody's lives have kind of been changed this past year, and we kind of do unwillingly, at least for me, as I like a full schedule, we've been forced to step back and take a real glimpse of the little things in life. So I'm really excited about this year. I'm excited that Berea has given me yet another opportunity to teach photography to the students there, and really just push the curriculum a little bit more. And hopefully we can do it all in person this year, because that's always fun to have that relationship building in the classroom. But I know that we're prepared to do whatever we need to do to make this school year successful, and also be able to provide what's best for the students' safety and education.
Thanks, Erin. And you're right. We are knocking on any wood that we can find. In-person classes. So far, it's looking pretty good. The county numbers are going the direction we want, so we continue to pray. We did find that our YouTube channel exploded over the summer when we had to move to remote education. So we had the visual, the auditory, and we had a nice movement happening also. I'm going to talk for just a moment about how do we pay for high school education and getting ready for college. And I'm going to share a little bit of the different pathways that my children have gone through. I have 5 children that I am raising, and 3 of them have graduated through homeschooled all the way through high school. And they all took very different paths, just like Dolores's kids took different paths and Janelle's kids took different paths. My oldest is my only son, and he is a manly man. He loves the testosterone aspects of life. And so when he was in middle school, he decided he liked explosives. He loved the 4th of July, was his favorite holiday, and Missouri S&T had a summer camp that was called Explosives Camp. From the time that he took that explosives camp, his path was set. He was 100% sure exactly what he wanted to do, and he was very driven towards that goal. Now it happens that Missouri S&T is the only school in the nation that offers explosives as an undergraduate degree. So not only did he know what he wanted to do, he knew where he wanted to do it. The only piece of the puzzle that was missing for him was how he was going to afford it. Coming from a blue-collar background, our family does not have the money to pay for our children's college education. And so all of my children have known that if they want to go to college, we will help as we can, but they're going to have to figure out how to pay the price tag. For my son, he chose the Army, ROTC scholarship. It was excellent. Everything was paid for in college. He got a stipend to help pay for his books, his housing. He got wonderful structure from the Army. He used to be a child who would not get up before noon, given his own druthers, and now he's up every morning at 4 a.m. He's a platoon leader, and he's out there leading the exercise and all of that. The Army has turned out to be a great career path for him. He could have gone reserves after he graduated or gone active duty. He currently is on active duty, so he and his wife have gotten to travel, and now the Army is paying for his master's. So he got his undergrad degree in mining engineering with the emphasis in explosives. Now he's getting his master's in explosives on the Army ticket. So that was a great direction for him. My second child that graduated is very creative. She is very artistic. She's also very articulate. She loves public speaking. She loves relationships with people. She hated math, and her math scores were probably one of the reasons why her ACT was not higher than it might have been. She ended up choosing a college that has full tuition reimbursement for labor. There are 7 or 8 universities, colleges in the United States where you can go 100% free, your tuition is paid for, in exchange for working for the college. And so my daughter worked as a weaver 1 year, making beautiful tapestries. She worked as a teacher's assistant several years, and she was able to graduate again, 100% of her tuition paid for. She went on to get her master's degree in journalism, graduated from there, and is now working full-time. Great, totally different path than her brother. My third child just graduated this May, and she's not really ready for college yet. She's earned all that she needed to earn to graduate from high school. She's completely done with her requirements, but she's not ready for a full-time schedule. She's not ready to be away from home, living in a dorm somewhere. She took our personal finance class at Berea and is very sure that she does not want to encourage any student loans whatsoever. And so she's taking a gap, earn some money year. She's going to be helping out at Berea. She looks for different part-time jobs. She's doing online learning to continue her brain stimulation to keep things going. But she's probably going to be taking classes at a community college one by one as she can pay for them. And then maybe sometime in the future, she will launch her dream of living in a van and touring the world and exploring all of the different avenues that are in front of her. But hers is going to be a different path, and that's okay. All of my children have taken advantage of advanced placement credit, taking AP courses in high school and taking the exam to give them some college credit before heading to college. Some of my children have done the CLEP exams. If you are not familiar with CLEP, I'd be happy to talk to you about it. Again, it's another exam that you can take if you get a passing score. Many colleges and universities will count as college credit. 2 of my children did take that gap year. They graduated and then they spent a year figuring out what the next steps were. Gap years are very much a doable thing. So if you're trying to plan the future, don't necessarily put an expiration date and say you have to be done with everything by this month and this day, because their path might be a little bit different. Now, the person that is supposed to be talking next, oh, Beth has a hand raised. Beth, yes.
I just wanted to jump in with that gap year for a second. My oldest is going into her senior year of high school, and she is one of those that is chomping at the bit to get to college. She would have preferred to have started college last year because she knows what she wants, she knows where she's going, and she thinks she's ready to take on the world. And actually in the last month to 6 weeks, we actually have begun discussing a gap year, because many students are taking a gap year this upcoming school year for their freshman year of high school. They were planning on a freshman year, but because of the way that COVID-19 has changed the way the school's operating, they've chosen gap instead, which means that my daughter's expected freshman year is going to have a bumper crop of incoming freshmen. And so as a result, now my senior is thinking about adding in a gap year to get over that, past that sort of hump of all the extra people fighting for the limited resources. And so it's just, I think, an example of how as we are going through homeschooling, sometimes we think we know where we're going, and then something crazy happens and kind of turns it on its side a little bit. And that's part of the beauty and the flexibility of being able to homeschool through the high school, is making those choices as they come up along the way. No one predicted the pandemic, and we have the freedom and flexibility to respond to it in a way that's healthy for her and for us as parents and as teachers.
And that flexibility is so very important. Flexibility for your expectations of your students, but also flexibility for the expectations you have about yourself and your own abilities. The next teacher that we had hoped to have tonight, who also cannot get on because of the storm, is Christina Maxwell. And Christina has the interesting homeschool situation where she has a high school senior and she has a boy just out of diapers. So when you have the teens and you have the littles, there's only so much mom to go around. And Christina wanted to talk about the importance of self-care for the mom. That for you to be effective to assist your children, your high schoolers during this time, you have to be alive and healthy and sane and somewhat balanced in your own mental perspective. So Christina teaches a women's self-defense class, which is one of our 2 classes that is open to adults, not just high school students. We want to talk to you for just a minute as an adult female, as a mom who needs to take care of herself and meet her own physical, mental, and emotional and spiritual needs so that you have something to pour out, something to give. And so I would like to introduce Tracy Calhoun. Tracy is our adult discipleship teacher. And so she's going to talk a little bit about what even that means, adult discipleship, and how when we are taking care of our own hearts and we are keeping ourselves spiritually healthy, that will allow us to love our children well.
Hi, I'm Tracy, and like Judy said, I am teaching the adult discipleship class. I can say the adult discipleship class has been a huge, huge blessing and have been very impactful in my life. Coming to Berea the first year, I sat in the class and wow, I was so amazed of how much our renewing of the mind, how critical and how important it is for us as moms, because we do take on so much in the house, the kids, cooking, trying to balance our life. But I have taken this class has also allowed me to what it looks like for scripture and the Holy Spirit to move forward together in all of this. And it has also allowed my mind to be shifted into the Holy Spirit so that I can pour from my source, which is Jesus Christ, that can give me that peace that surpasses all understanding, that gives me that freedom that I can walk in, and that also can heal my heart. So I can also love the Lord God with my heart, my mind, and my body and my soul, so that he can heal my heart and I can pour out that love onto others. And one of the other things that was so critical being in the Berea community was the relationships. The relationships that I have built with other teachers, parents, the children has been so impactful in my life. I can come alongside and we can walk together and partner in partnership with the Lord and can move and be, just have that freedom, So one of the things that I welcome parents, staff, anyone, all adults, come to the discipleship class. And they have set a spot for me all day Thursday so that you all can join me and we can walk and be able to change lives and become these disciples that Christ has called us, has purposed us to be, so that we can go out and be these light, be the salt of the earth, and that we can add and multiply in God's kingdom.
Tracy's a wonderful person to pray with you if you have a problem, if you have a situation, if you are concerned and need some wisdom. She's happy to speak with anyone at any time. You might notice over in the chat that Beth is giving us little advertising blurbs and little snippets of information as we go along. You can watch the gossip column over there happening. The adult discipleship classes are 3 times on Thursdays, 10 o'clock, 12:30, and 2:30. We are actually going to segue into a Q&A time right now, and Beth is going to be talking to some of the teachers, answering questions that are common questions that people have about homeschooling high school. Obviously, if you are on this call right now and you have a question that you would like us to discuss, we want to prioritize your questions. So you can type it over in the chat there, and Beth and I will check it and tag it, and we will make sure that we discuss those things. But right now I'm going to pass the baton over to Beth, and she's going to pick up our Q&A time.
Yeah, I found that Zoom meetings make me thirsty like nothing ever has in the world. It is the craziest thing, right? All of us, we're hydrated now. What an amazing thing. So sorry about that. Is anyone here? Oh, great. We do have a question in the chat, which is always super exciting. While my high schoolers in classes, is there a place my younger kids and I can go to do school, or do I drop her off and we go off campus? So this year, the answer is unfortunately off campus. There are a couple of reasons for that. One of them is that our host location is undergoing a construction project, and I'm super excited. This will be the first time the teachers have heard this. The gymnasium that they have been building is almost finished, which is super exciting. It's a huge building that it's going to, just wonderful things are going to happen in there. It is scheduled to finish, they're hoping the end of October, maybe November, but that will be finished and wrapped up. However, they have some very generous donors, and once they have wrapped the gymnasium project, they are actually beginning a second project on campus where they're doing a whole new entry foyer into the building, where you actually begin entering. The main entrance will be in the back of the property, and you'll enter with the gym on one side, and the sanctuary will just be in front of you when you come in. It's going to be gorgeous and wonderful. But as a result of construction, we do have a more limited space option than we might otherwise have in other years. On top of that, we're dealing with our regulations and policies related to COVID-19 and how we're handling that as an organization. And we're utilizing all the space that we can in the building to create appropriate distance for individuals and all of that kind of thing. And as a result, all of the space that we are able to use is actually claimed and in use for active classes. So last year, our campus liaison put together a wonderful list of nearby resources that you can utilize. I will have to check in with her and see if that's been updated, but I know that on the list included, there's a library really close, a number of parks very close that you can play, that sort of thing. And that's something that I'm hoping we will be able to generate this year as well. All right, well then we're going to jump in and we're going to say hi to Paula. Paula has this wonderful background on her screen because Paula, part of what she does, in addition to working for Berea, is she actually tutors online and has done that for a number of years now. She teaches English in the wee hours of the morning. And so she has this great background going on because she's used to this Zoom online concept. And Paula she's one of the more visible stories of the provision that God has had for Berea, although I could spend the entire evening explaining to you how every teacher has been part of that. But that aside, Paula and I have talked off and on throughout the years about different paths from post-high school and what that kind of looks like. And I'm going to answer the question that came up in chat, Paula, before I wrap it back over to you. So you'll be on pins and needles to see Paula's perspective on students in college. Classes that my daughter is interested in but cannot enroll due to conflicting time. Are those classes always offered? So the answer is it kind of depends. Some of our classes are on rotation. Mrs. Music teaches American literature and British literature on rotation. This year's American, next year will be British, and the year after that is American, etc. Spanish 1 and 2 are always offered. There's, and then Mrs. Music also rotates the different levels of literature. And the nice thing about the literature classes is that if you're committed to a Spanish, which really has, like any foreign language, has to go in order, Mrs. Music's literature classes can be interchangeable in the years, depending on your individual ability. She can adapt the class to a student who, you know, if this year is an American literature, which technically we consider to be not quite as hard as British literature. However, if you come in to a year as a British Lit student and you haven't had American, that's not a problem. She can work with your student to help get them to where they'd like to go. So we are working on making that information available on our website, but unfortunately, we've been really swamped with a lot of stuff. So if you want to shoot me an email asking me specifically which classes are a conflict, and I can address it very, very clearly and help make a plan for longer term, that would be excellent. You can always email me, I'm Beth, at bereaacademystl@gmail.com.
And we can also send along to you our scope and sequence document, which gives you a basic outline of what classes and how frequently they're offered. So we'd be happy to do that too.
Yes, absolutely. We know those things because, you know, we work with them all the time, but we're trying to make them not a behind the scenes thing, like just a public thing. So, all right, Paula, let's talk about students in college.
Hello. Well, when we started off homeschooling, we have 4 boys, and our focus was always, I don't want to make them sound dumb when I say not terribly academic, but it was, my husband is a master craftsman. He is a cabinet maker. We own our own business. And so their whole lives, they have been on the job site. They have been in the cabinet shop. They've built houses, they've remodeled, they've done welding and electrical, and he also loves working on cars. So everything we've done has had, they get a lot of industrial art credit, let's put it that way. And as they've gotten older and started moving on towards high school, our idea was always that we were going to adapt their high school education to their interests and to the direction that we thought they would have an interest in going after school. We didn't want to just say, here is the plan, and then now you do it. We said, what do you like? What do you enjoy? What's your natural bent? I had my second son, brag on him for a minute. All my kids have dual enrolled at the community college their senior year, because I just found with boys, by the time they got to about 15, 16, they need to go somewhere else than be with me all the time. They have mountains to climb and things to explore, and they needed to go do that. And so we sent him out there, and my second son was he's very bright, liked to read, didn't want anything to do with schoolwork. Every day it was, here is your list of schoolwork. And he'd say, well, I have a project, and then I'll get to that. And he'd be welding or doing electrical work all day out in the shop, and we never actually got to it. So he said, you have to do something else now. So he went into the computer integrated manufacturing program at Jefferson College his senior year. And he went into the adult program. He didn't go into an ATS or high school program. And so he graduated at the end of his senior year in high school. He was halfway through the program. He was offered a full-time job as a machinist. He got an academic scholarship, which I didn't know they had those, for VOTEC programs through a manufacturer of CNC equipment. And his company then, not only did he have the scholarship, and we got Pell Grants, and he had savings, and his company reimbursed him for all of his expenses. So he made about $5,000 for going to school by the time he got done, and was working at the same time. And they sent him back to the college to talk to the students now. He is teaching CNC programming at Jefferson College this fall, and he's 20. And I was like, are they hard up? You know, but he can do it. This is what he does for a living. And when he graduated high school, he had 25 credits, and 10 of them were industrial art. And that's who he is. And he's really, really good at what he does. My oldest son is a college graduate. He went on to SEMO and just graduated this spring. But he worked on the job sites enough to know that he does not like working on job sites. He likes air conditioning and offices and things like that. But we still had him go out to Jeffco first, and he got transfer scholarships. And we figured that even though he didn't get the big freshman scholarships, which he wouldn't have anyway because his ACT scores weren't high enough, but what he saved by going to a community college first and getting the couple of years to mature and a couple of years at home where he was still working and going to school and making decisions, he was accepted into every four-year college. Everyone that he applied, every one of them offered him scholarships, but he had enough money saved that way that he could live on campus and then rent a house and go away to school for the last 2 years. And it was just, so none of them have left at 18, goodbye, and drop you off at the dorm. None of them have gone that path. They've all worked in the business and learned enough to know that none of them want to be cabinet makers, but have done that and worked alongside their father. And I know everybody doesn't get that opportunity, but the main thing was that we tried to direct high school towards their interests. Some things you have to do whether you're interested or not. You still have to take language arts, you still have to take math, you're still, whether you're interested or not, you still have to do certain things. I teach science, so yeah, you have to take a lot of science classes. But my third son is a senior this year, and he is enrolled in the HVAC program at Jefferson College. And so he'll be done with that in 2 years. He'll graduate when he's, college, with his Associate of Applied Science when he's 19 or 20, I guess, 19. And my youngest is what brought us to Berea, because he'll be a sophomore this year, and he's completely different than all the rest of them. And he loves art, music, and building things and all that too, but also does not want to work in the cabinet shop. And that's what brought us there, was trying to cater to the different things that they were interested in. And that's just something, there is no way I can't teach art. And we had an opportunity. I knew Delores because all my kids had worked on her kitchen when she did her cabinets, when she built her house a few years ago. So we knew her from that, and we found out she was teaching at Berea. And so that's how we ended up there. Was I had this son that wanted something and wanted to learn something that we just couldn't do at home. And I'm a strong proponent of, you can do most of this at home. A lot of it, if you just stay a couple chapters ahead of the kids, you're going to be able to teach it to them. But there are some things you can't. I could not teach welding. I cannot teach HVAC or CNC, and I can't teach art, or apparently algebra, we're finding out. But other than that, so that's how we ended up at Berea. And then, like Beth said, we're sitting there talking, and, while he's visiting the art class and yada, yada, next thing I'm teaching physical science an hour later. So I had to fill out the application and all that. But it's like, yeah, that sounds great. I can do that because I've been doing that. So, but that's been our main thing. And it might be a little non-traditional, going through and just seeing what do they like. And we've been fortunate. My husband is a very non-traditional person, and he's in seminary. He's not non-academic or anything like that, but we've had a real emphasis in the trades and in technical skills, and that is a value, that being able to do these things and being able to build things with your hands has a huge value in our society, and that you're producing something to be consumed that is useful. And that's what we want for the boys. We want all of them to have things that are useful, even the one that went to college. He's very useful too. But and I think my fourth one probably will too. But that's been just the main thing, is what do you like? Who are you as an individual? What is your bent? What do you like? And how can we facilitate that? We can't teach some of it, but we can facilitate it and direct it, and hopefully keep you on the right path with it. So, and we're very happy to be at Berea and being able to continue with that with our youngest son now.
Thank you, Paula. I love the different tracks your students have taken as they move through these different school opportunities. I think that When we talk high school, we start talking a lot about things like dual credit, dual enrollment, AP, CLEP testing, and we get kind of focused on where they go after high school, whether it's, you know, a VOTEC or a job or whatever. I think it's really important as parents, as teachers, and as an organization that we recognize that high school is not only a transitional time for that student. It's a time that they're doing a lot of growing and a lot of maturing and a lot of learning, but it's the temptation, especially as a parent, is to make sure that you've checked all the boxes so they have the choice, they can make choices, so they can do what they want to do, and they can, you know, and you want to do that, and it's important that we do some of that. And it's also really important that in the middle of that, we also stay present, and that we encourage our high schooler and our student to remain present as well. I mentioned to you, my daughter would have liked to have been in college already. And when she requested a dual enrollment for this previous academic year, I told her no. There were a lot of different priorities in her life. She's juggling a lot of different aspects of many different things. And as a parent, I could see that it was not wise for her to jump into college level classes. Academically, she was completely capable, absolutely. And also, like I kept telling her, you're 16 years old. Sometimes you should be 16. And that's okay. And there's nothing wrong with that. And she came to me a couple months ago and, you know, just thanked me for having that wisdom to hold her in the present rather than pushing her into her future steps. And this is a child who knows exactly what degree she's going for, has narrowed down her college list, all that kind of stuff. But high school is a learning time when we're not just looking at the future, but we're also we're polishing up those edges in the present. And I think that's really important too. And so for me, when I think about high school, we're still back to that whole student concept where it's not just about their ability to take a test, or whether it's the ACT and very important, or the quiz in, you know, spelling, or not spelling at that age, you know what I mean. It's not just about that. It's also about their maturity, their ability to begin taking responsibility for the decisions that they're making, coaching them in weighing out pros and cons so that they can make those decisions, equipping them with financial knowledge so they can make healthy financial choices as they move into this adulthood. This is a lot of equipping and coaching and teaching time. One of the ways that I do that for my students, and I've worked with a number of other students who I'm not related to in this way, is in the transcript building itself. So most people are just terrified of transcripts, which I totally understand. It's very official and it feels very formal. There's a wonderful book called Setting the Records Straight that is a great guide for building a transcript and how to do that. And I think the most important thing that you can do is involve your high school student in that process. Make them sit down with you. Make them write the transcript with you, because it helps them see a lot of different things. First, they see what they've done, which it can be so easy when we're forward focused to forget how hard we've worked and really feel that sense of accomplishment. And we really want to encourage them in that. Look at what you have done is amazing. Let's not wait until graduation senior year to pat them on the back for their hard work. Let's do it as we keep going along and encourage them in that. It also gets them thinking about what's to come and how those choices can work. And Paula mentioned, you know, just really finding out what their thing is. I kind of thinking about it as their jam, because I'm old and that's my slang. You know, like, what is it that they really settle into? What is it that's interesting or challenging or really capturing them in a really healthy way? And when you're talking about transcripts and you're talking about, okay, I'd like to have you have 3 sciences on your transcript, it opens up a whole conversation instead of just sitting down and saying, okay, this year you're taking I don't know, chemistry. And it gives the student an opportunity to participate in that choice making, which then helps them invest themselves into that situation as well. And so I'm a big believer in involving the student in all of that choice making. And the other aspect of transcripts that I think is really important is making sure that you kind of do it along the way as you go. Because it's really hard to build a transcript backwards and try to remember what it was you've done. But if you sit down twice a year, you know, in August to kind of preview what's coming up and in May to review what you did, it makes it so much easier. At the you get to your senior year and you're prepping that transcript for graduation, and suddenly it's just a little bit of work instead of a whole lot of work. So before I make a shift on to the next thing, which is going to be Brandy talking about math, and because sometimes those things are necessary. Tracy, I think, has something she'd like to add.
I do have something to say, because what it reminded me of, Diamond is working on her transcript, and I can testify that her creating and putting her transcript together, it shows her responsibility and she takes ownership. And with her taking ownership, also allow her to invest. So it's just like our relationship with Christ. When you take ownership, you invest, and that helps her to grow, not only in a natural, but also in the supernatural. So I can attest to what Beth said. It is very important to allow our kids to do their own transcript.
And I had the honor of actually working with Diamond several times now on her transcript. Our first meeting was both Tracy and Diamond, and the last time we looked at it, it was just Diamond. We got on a Zoom call and we handled it. And, you know, and she'd already done all the work. She just wanted an extra pair of eyes to kind of give her a little atta girl. She'd done a great job managing it, and it really shows in that investment. And when you are building a transcript and you're thinking about what classes do I need, science and math are the ones that scare a lot of homeschooling parents. And I will be honest with you, I am one of them. I am not a science person and I am not a math person. I recognize those. My oldest has been able to sit down with textbooks and learn from the textbook what she needs to know mathematically. And when she doesn't, go to her dad, who totally gets math, which is good, because otherwise I would need a Berea class for math. Thankfully, we have those. And Brandy Hicks is with us tonight. She's teaching geometry this year, which is the only math that made any kind of little bit of sense to me. Unlike algebra. But I know geometry for a lot of people is really scary. So Brandy, what does that look like in your class and in your subject?
Well, I'm one of those people that I love math, and I always loved math, and excelled at it all the way through. And I have 4 children, and all 4 of them, if you ask their favorite subject, usually math is one of them. And I think that what sometimes is in our hearts and our bents, we just naturally, you know, give to our children. My oldest is in college and he's a math major, and he's surpassed me greatly in math knowledge. So I did not homeschool so far anyone in high school. I homeschooled through 8th grade. But all my kids love math, excelled at math, and geometry was my favorite. So I'm looking forward to teaching it. I posted earlier about, you know, tips and tricks for high school, and I think I've totally identified with what people said earlier, which is have a plan with your student and know your student and pray with them and see and help shape and guide them. I loved what Paula said. She had 4 boys and she knew they had to go somewhere. I'm the same way. I had my first 3 are boys and they are ready to conquer the world, and so we did some things to push them out and help shape them, and I'm still doing that. Or if they're looking to, you know, a certain vocation, you have to help guide them in that. And so for me, math is very important if you're going, you know, if you're looking towards college and you're looking towards taking the ACT, geometry is very important. I've researched and known that geometry makes up about 40% of the ACT exam. It's actually 40% Algebra 1, about 40% geometry, and just about 20% algebra 2 and trig. So you really got to know those first two, high school maths really well. And so geometry is important, and you really need it if you need it to graduate high school typically, and you also need it if you're going towards college. And the program, the video text program, as I'm working through it this summer, is really awesome. And I spoke with actually the creator of the program. So for video text, the actual online helper is the creator of the program. And so he gave me his personal number. I have it in my phone. And I spoke with him, and he just said, call me. You can call me weekly. You can call me whenever. And so I'm looking forward to that. But I'm working my way through it, and I really like it. And I'm looking forward to it. And I do really love geometry. It makes my heart happy. But all math makes my heart happy. So I was I didn't major in math. I was a finance major, but all my children do too. So I'm looking forward to it. And it's very important if you're going the college route, and to have a good foundation in Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2.
Brandy, I am glad that there are teachers out there like you who love math. It encourages me, actually, as a student who struggled greatly in math, and as a mom who is terrified of having kids who need me to guide them that way. I'm really glad that there are people like you out there. So thank you. Just really quickly, Delores has put together some information in more detail about planning classes and adapting high school and things like that we can make available to you as part of our follow-up to all of this. So thank you, Delores. And then we're going to move on. Amber is going to take a couple minutes and talk about students with special needs. Amber works with a lot of different types of people, and she has a really great perspective on that situation.
Thanks, Beth. I am Amber. For Berea, I teach American Sign Language, and that is one of the hats I wear as such. My other job is I get to work with kiddos ages either birth to 3 or birth to 8, depending on who they are, and their families, and helping them to be able to build skills in order to be successful in whatever academic situation, and also in home life. My degree is in deaf education, so that I get to keep my deaf kiddos till right before their 9th birthday. So we get to do those transitions into those preschool and elementary ages and see how those go. And we're setting those foundations then for the high school. And this past year and a half now, I've been able to experience working with high schoolers with teaching world languages. It's kind of different to go from the goals you have when they're little bitty up to the high school where the whole class kind of has similar goals, and they want these things called grades. But we're getting there. One of the things that really stands out to me is that we are all, we're all individuals. We're all unique, and sometimes those differences create challenges. For me, it's kind of funny. I teach a visual language, but I am an auditory learner. So just that difference there is interesting. I've had to learn how visual learners work in order to be able to teach a visual language that I love. I have all sorts of interesting little auditory things that help you remember them, because that's how my brain works. So even as something as easily workable as a child with visual orientation for learning and a teacher who's an auditory learner, we work through those. Some of our students have different medical and physical needs, and we've been working with strategies and ways to make all that work. One of ours, the building has stairs, the building has different levels, different people have different medical needs, and being able to work with those. It's one of the reasons, many families homeschool, is because we need to be able to match academics and medical needs and take a break for this and work through that. Sometimes we even go as far as, having those unseen or unidentified challenges that we need to work through. Our goal really is to work with families, that partnership idea that we keep talking about because it's so important, to create environments where children can learn. We have you've already heard a variety of things with backgrounds and experiences, and so the staff has a lot of experience that we build and work with each other on. It's like, you know, we can go up and say, Beth, Judy, we're struggling in this area. Who do we know that can come support? And I had that experience my first couple of months with Berea, and the staff just gathered around and really supported both myself and the student and the family. So trying to work at that, you know, that partnership level. I kind of worked on a paragraph, I'll just be honest, and it kind of came out as, while diverse learners may have challenges in their educational experiences, we see these as not barriers to learning, but as opportunities for our staff, our families, and our students to develop new skills, because when we have those challenges, we're going to make new skills. But we're also going to do, as a teacher and as a parent, experience new ways and different ways of learning. So working together to make those needs. I look at my kiddos and my littles, and I say, okay, I know what's coming next. I know how to help you get to the next step. Oh, well, how old are they supposed to be when they get to that step? I don't know. I really don't care, because it's the next step for them. So however they are old right now, whether they are 6 months, 6 years, 16, the next step is, and how do we get there? It may be a straightforward path. It may be, let's figure out how to get there. So that's kind of where we are with special needs.
Thank you, Amber. I love that. Something that I think about oftentimes as an alternative to barrier is actually the word obstacle. Because with an obstacle, we can examine it, and then we can figure out if it's an obstacle that we can go around, if we can go over, or if we need to walk away from. And by identifying how we can manage that obstacle, then we can build a plan for success, whatever that success looks like. And I just wanted to make sure to note, Amber does the sign language class, and sign language is a recognized foreign language for your high school transcripts and applications. So yeah, there's just a lot going on and kind of figuring all that out. And then one of our aspects that we really are looking for in our high school students is, as they begin to learn and master and move through their own personal responsibilities, a huge aspect of that is organization, which was something that Jenna is planning to talk about. Our physics teacher, our conceptual physics teacher, who is correcting me that you cannot go over an obstacle because she is the physics teacher and she knows these things. However, I am not, and therefore, where there's a will, there's a way. But she's going to talk to us a little bit about organization and maybe help me figure that out.
All right, sorry, I had to unmute first. I guess as Judy would probably say, I'm a little bit quirky. And so as Beth was talking, the only thing I could think about was the Going on a Bear Hunt song, where you can't go over it, can't go under it, can't go, or got to go through it anyway. So that's just the way my mind works, which is ironic because that was maybe a disorganized thought, I don't know. But one thing I was thinking about is, in terms of how classes are organized at Berea, the fact that students only meet once a week gives them a lot of opportunity for responsibility and organization. And I say opportunity because some students don't want to necessarily do that at the very beginning, but it is an opportunity for growth and for learning that doesn't exist in a lot of other school type environments. So, you know, organization in high school, if you have a high schooler, you know, it's key. They tend to lose things. And being in this environment really forces students to have to stay organized, to have responsibility for their own work, which is something that is very important no matter what their future career is going to be. I wanted to talk a little bit about some things for science also. I love science because it's just a way to study the creation that God has made. It's basically applied math. However, if you've taken any science classes in high school, Or if you tried to study physics, for example, at home as a homeschooler, you'll quickly find out that it's very easy to drown in math, in physics, which is why this year we're offering a conceptual physics. It's not going to be math free, but it's math light. And so if you're, a parent who really just is like, I don't really want to do all this math and science stuff, if you're not the kind of person who wants to teach physics, it's just kind of unique that Berea has that opportunity. We have, I think, like to think about formulas as guides to thinking instead. And even if your student isn't looking to have a future in science, it's just one of those things that we all have to know is be good consumers of scientific information. And although COVID is much more related to biology, it's just an example of the fact that we all have to interact in a world that's full of science. And there's also a whole component that's just wonder, and that's that that the heavens are telling the glory of God, right? And so you look up in the sky and you're studying astronomy, which is really physics also, and you just get to see how God made this world to work. You don't have to be, a Christian to attend Berea, but obviously we're very passionate and steeped in knowing that all of our students are, created by God and that we live in His world. I like the opportunity that we had to do e-learning, second semester. And I was just thinking about something else as everybody else was talking about something else that makes Berea unique, is that I had a lot of students having trouble getting on the computer and it just wasn't working, and people were just getting bumped off, and the internet wasn't working at all. And so when I got a couple of us on, we just stopped and prayed.
Thank you. I love that addition, because one of the things that makes Berea a little bit different in our community is that we are a Christian-led organization. We do not require our families to be Christians. They don't sign a statement of faith. We are open to any issue of faith that does not mean your application won't go through. But our staff and our top volunteers, our adults that are involved, they sign a statement of faith. They have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, and that they are, He's the leader in their lives. And it allows us to lead and teach in that way. And it allows us to be a light on the hill, which is a beautiful thing. And we pray with our students, we pray for our students. And it's again part of that partnership from a whole student perspective. Their spiritual well-being is incredibly important. It is maybe even more important than their academic well-being, because it's so fundamental and foundational to their lives. Now, Carolyn was on earlier, our call. Unfortunately, she also has a power issue now, and so she's not on with us. But she was actually going to talk about a student's emotional well-being. And she's offering a psychology class this year, which looks really amazing. And I encourage you to check that out. She's incredibly talented. She's worked as a counselor for a number of years, and has actually even worked with homeschool students. And so she has a great perspective on that situation. And I'm so excited that she's coming in. She has such a heart for the emotional well-being of our students, which all of our teachers do. And Carolyn is just helping us continue to refine that approach to our students. Our students are not just their head. They are their heart and their body and their spirit. And all of these things come to play into their ability to do their homework. I know a number of students who, when shelter-in-place orders came through, they just fell apart. It was the pressure of being in their home environment all the time, or the change in their regular routines, or even the distance from their friends. Or maybe it's just that 5 different people are trying to use phones or computers to talk to somebody outside of the house, and the only private space they have is a closet. It was a tough time. And as an organization, we were able to really see that and work with each family and work with each student to still meet their needs, which is a really, really important thing that we stay focused on. And Carolyn has a huge heart for that emotional well-being in our students. And as I said, she's just refining that in us as an organization. I can't name a single teacher who is not emotionally invested in their students. I know Janelle Steen was just heartbroken that at the end of the year, she could not hug her seniors goodbye because she's so deeply invested in her students. I had the same experience watching the seniors that I've worked with for over the last 3 years, or even maybe just a year, as they go on to those next steps. That whole person is really important to us as an organization.
If anyone had a question or a topic that they wanted to discuss that we did not cover tonight, when we say goodbye to everyone in just a moment here, feel free to hang on the line, and Beth and I will stick with you. Probably some of the other teachers will hang around. We'd be happy to talk to you if you have an issue that you still want to discuss tonight. However, this is our last town hall meeting for the summer. This is the first year we have done town hall meetings, and it has been very successful. We had one for elementary education, we had one for middle school, now we have this one for high school. We had a virtual open house. It's a wonderful format to be able to understand a little bit more about educational philosophies, about practical applications, about what tools are available. A week from today, on the 17th, Berea is having real live in-person campus tours. So if you have not been on campus, or your child is feeling very anxious about what classroom is their classroom, or how are they going to do this, how is it all going to work, you're going to have a chance to do a little test run. The link for that will be part of the follow-up material. So if you have already enrolled and been approved for enrollment and you want to schedule a tour, please do so. We are prioritizing our newest families first, but it's about to open up to anybody. So be on the lookout for that. And then 2 weeks from tonight, on the 24th of August, is going to be our orientation night. So the orientation night is only for people who have enrolled in classes. It is not going to be a live event. It's going to be a virtual event. So it's going to be a Zoom session similar to this, except it's going to be much more of a transmission of information one way. So less discussion, more, this is how it's going to work. These are our COVID policies. This is what you need to know on the first day. This is the supply list for the Wonder and Explore. This is what you do if you get sick. This is what you do if, you know, the dog eats your homework. This is what, you know, just like all of our different policies and procedures, how we're going to operate, what accommodations we've made for COVID, anything that you need to know should be happening that night. It's 2 weeks from tonight. We do need you to go ahead and register for that event, and we would request that it is one call-in per household. So if there are 5 of you, it's much better if all 5 of you were on one camera instead of 5 separate cameras, because we do have a limit for how many registrants we can accept on one particular Zoom call. And our enrollment is very high this year. If everybody registered, we would have a problem. So we don't want to see that happen. So that is 2 weeks from tonight, and then 3 weeks and 1 day from today is the first day of school. Can you believe it? 3 weeks and 1 day, we will be meeting in person with backpacks and books and pencils in hand, and we are so excited. I cannot tell you how excited these teachers are to be able to be back with students in the classroom, talking, chatting, learning, growing, all of that. So if you have questions about who we are, you can go to our website at bereaacademystl.org. If you have specific questions about classes that might be of interest to you, questions, concerns about policies or schedules or things like that, and you need to talk to a person, then you should email us at bereaacademystl@gmail.com. As Beth mentioned, if you do go on to the teacher bio pages on our website, there is a contact form on the bottom, and so you can fill out that form and the message will get directly to the teacher if there is a teacher in particular that you wanted to talk to. And I want to thank you for hanging on. I want to thank the Lord for allowing us to hang on, that the power stayed on at my house because it went off twice this afternoon. So we made it through, which is fabulous. The Lord bless you. Have a wonderful evening. Good night.